want to convince you that I belong on air, Mr. Ailes. I think I'd be freaking phenomenal on your network.
I could pluck you out and move you to the front of the line. But I need to know that you're loyal. I need you to find a way to prove it. You don't think of him as a villain, for starters. You just think of him as a human being, flawed as we all are, and his flaws run a little deeper and are a little more repellent. It's important that you sort of embrace your role in the film, where you fit into this story. So much of my work was done just by Roger, by his history, the reality of Fox News, and by this terrific screenplay written by Charles Randolph and by Jay Roach, our director, just crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and trying very, very hard to tell everybody's story. It's not a takedown of Roger, but it is a story of his fall. So I don't know, I just approach it like I approach every character. What makes this man tick? Roger, it was very mercurial. He was his very strong id, so that he had a tempestuous temper. He could, even in the midst of feeling humiliated and humbled, he could suddenly rage. And I think that, that sort of tripwire personality of his was my hook.
I've heard you say similar things about Arthur on Dexter,
Yes. I find invoking both of them because, Roger was no serial killer. Mm-hmm. He was a serial harasser, which is not quite as atrocious a crime, or not anywhere near as bad a crime, but he was in the grips of a compulsion, the way Arthur Miller, the Trinity Killer, was in pure fiction.
Thank you all for the comfort of your home.
Where no one said they were thankful for me. Did you, Jonah? Did you say you were thankful for me, Jonah? I felt the most interesting way to approach Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer, was to think of him as in the grips of a compulsion which he desperately wishes he didn't have. And that he didn't want to be doing these things. He just had to do them. Something, his own traumatic experience in childhood, made him do these things. And he wished not only that he didn't have to do them, but that somebody would stop him.
Right.
All those are really interesting things for a character actor to play. Mm-hmm. And you're always looking for hooks, things to seize on, that helps you tell the story.
What this nation needs is several years of strong, steady, experienced administration.
They were going to put me in to the series in episode 1, way back last August when they started shooting it, as a kind of transition, to help with the transition between the old cast and the new cast, to have one scene with the Queen. And I was so delighted and excited. And then they decided, no, we better not break the rule. We've made it a clear break. Nobody plays the same role. And then they spent the next 10 months shooting all 10 episodes. And I suddenly got a call saying, we had another look at the first episode, and we've decided we really do need another glimpse at Winston. I guess no spoiler alert. The second half of the first episode includes Churchill's funeral, and they just found it's not going to really have an impact unless you're just reminded sort of visually and to hear his voice again, see him again. So I got to come after all. It was a little Christmas present. And work with meet Olivia Colman and work with her. The only one who's anywhere near as delightful as Olivia is Claire Foy. Just two of the most wonderful people. So it was just a breeze. It was so easy, and I was, for the most part, just lying in bed grumbling until she kissed me on the forehead.
You certainly have talked about sort of the act of the transformation into Churchill. Was that the same this time around, or did it?
Well, it was different in purely the technical sense that we chose heavy prosthetic makeup for Ailes, which was necessary because his corpulence was a big element of the character. I mean, he was a big, fat man. And I had attempted to make Churchill a fat man, but only by wearing very, very tight shirts. I mean, holding my head like that. That was not enough for Roger, at least not in Jay Roach's worldview. It was the making of me in many ways. I had done a huge amount of comedy in my life, mainly on stage, though. I don't think there were comic elements to things like Roberta Muldoon in World According to Garp, even The Twilight Zone. But those were not comic roles or comic films. This was flat out comedy. It sort of declared the fact that I do that and I'm good at it. And I can make people laugh really, really hard. And that just gives another dimension and another set of skills that people didn't know about. One of the great things about Third Rock is that we were able to parody, like there were 5 different moments in Third Rock from the Sun where I parodied roles I'd actually played in the movies. There was the Garage Band episode where I came in as Reverend Shaw Moore, talking about rock and roll music.
This rock and roll music has got to stop!
Why?
Because it's loud and rhythmic, and rhythm can lead to dancing. Rock and roll music preaches a gospel.
The Twilight Zone episode was the first time I was on an airplane, and I looked out the wing and said, "There's something on the wing of the plane." And Jane Curtin said, "It's the engine," and when I ran over a chipmunk, and it was at the veterinary hospital getting an operation, recovering from an operation.
My chipmunk is in pain. Give him the shot. You understand me?
You're gonna have to behave.
Give my chipmunk the shot!
Give my chipmunk his drugs, which was pure terms of endearment.
Give my daughter the shot!
Shirley MacLaine. It was on. And of course, the episode where I wanted to explore what it was like to be a woman and crashed a women's group dressed fully as Roberta Muldoon.
Yeah, basically the same character.
It's great. Who else gets the opportunity to parody himself?
There has been a twist in the murder investigation. We recovered these photos taken from a surveillance camera in the gym.
Sexuality is fluid, and sometimes my fluids go towards men.
The notion of a man on trial for having murdered his wife, and you're never quite sure whether he did it or not, but either one had to be plausible, I just thought that was hilarious. And the boldness of making murder into comedy. I just thought that was great.
The character name, Larry Henderson, is a play on Harry and the Hendersons.
Of course.
Okay.
Everything was a play on something.
Yeah.
and I think they made that his name in order to sort of, another ambush to persuade me to play the part.
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man.
Yes, I know the Muffin Man. Who lives on Drury Lane?
Well, she's married to the Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man!
She's married to the Muffin Man.
Did you have a sense that this was going to be this big thing at the time?
Not at all. Jeffrey Katzenberg was the one who hired me, and I said I wasn't going to say no to Jeffrey. And, you do an animated film voice, and you show up for a half an hour, and it's done. And then they'll call you back another year later for some new scenes, new ideas, and it's done. It was like 4 years between the first time I recorded anything and the release of that film. And it got to the point of saying, what, are they still doing that? Isn't that done yet? I thought it was like a Saturday morning cartoon. What's the big deal? I took my daughter to Stanford for a college tour in Palo Alto, and that's where the animation studio was. And they'd always said, whenever you're in Palo Alto, these wonderful, nerdy animators, come and see us. She said, we'll show you what we're up to. So I thought, well, while she's on the tour, I'll go visit their studio. And I saw what they'd been doing for the last 3 years. And I was like, oh, my God. This was the real cutting edge CGI animation technology. It was breathtaking. They would describe the comedy business like, Lord Farquaad, he rides up on a horse. He's in armor, full, head to toe armor. He looks tall, gorgeous, and then they lift him out of the armor and they put him on the ground, and he's only this tall. And I'd say, yeah, it sounds really funny.
Sure.
But I couldn't. Then you see it in the movie, and it's just hysterically funny. It's like they have a different version of comedy, which is so, it's just liberated by their loony visual imagination.
When I was a kid, it felt like they made something new every day, some gadget or idea, like every day was Christmas.
When I met Chris for the part, I think I was more or less, he was going to hire me, but I had to know what it was before I said yes. So he and his wife Emma, his co-producer, he pitched me the whole story. He spent about an hour telling me this incredibly complicated story, and it was fascinating, and I just knew this is going to be great. All I have to do is show up and be an old man. David Oyelowo came to do one scene to play the school principal in this futuristic high school. And he was a friend, so we went out to supper together, and he didn't know anything. He thought he was just playing a high school principal. And I said, you don't know the story? And he says, no, it was Christopher Nolan. I'm not going to say no. It was one scene, so I said yes. And I said, well, I'm not sure I'm allowed to tell you, but you're in the movie, so I'm going to tell you. And by some miracle, I was able to explain the plot of Interstellar to the point where David, after about 20 minutes, his mouth had dropped open. He said, oh, my God, I am in a fantastic movie. And it really is. I think it is one of the great science fiction films.
Yeah.
It's way beyond science fiction. It's just a fantastic film.
Merry Christmas! It certainly should be.
Do you have any fond memories of being on set for that?
Not really. I loved Dudley Moore. He was just adorable.
Cost who? The people who buy the toy.
Well, nothing. We're going to give them away free.
For free?
Well, that's how we do it at the North Pole.
Well, that's not how we do it here.
Santa Claus is finished.
But I also remembered it's just one of the tackiest movies I'd ever been in. I hate to say that about anything I've done, but it really was. It seemed cheesy, and it certainly never stuck.
Right.
It's not like It's a Wonderful Life, except in England. It is huge over there. I mean, in fact, it happened just 2 nights ago. This English girl came up to me. Where the hell was I? At a screening or something, to just say it was her favorite movie of all time, And I wish I had a nickel for every Englishman who's told me that. It was just huge. Is still every Christmas. So in England, that's half what I'm known for.
Yeah. That's really
It's
funny.
like, isn't that odd? It's just part of a tacky Christmas tradition over there. Everybody gathers around to see Santa Claus the movie again.
I love that.
We are gathered here today with the purpose of uniting in matrimony George Esteban Garea, Benjamin Arthur Hall.
You worked with Alfred on that, who was a longtime friend of yours. What was that like? Kind of this whole idea of you're a married couple, but you're a longtime friend. So what went into kind of establishing that?
Well, we were friends. We weren't great friends, but because we never worked together.
Right.
He was already set to play my longtime partner when it was offered to me, and I pictured it perfectly. I thought, this is going to be wonderful. But it made us great friends. He's just one of the finest people in the business. Everybody who knows him loves him. Ira challenged both of us in a certain way. We're both stage actors and stagey actors. We act to a fairly well. And his most relentless direction to us with no acting. No acting. Okay, let's do it again, but no acting. And at first, we were separated in the film for a good part of the film. So he had started work before I had. I came on like a week later. We both had the same experience. We shared it with each other. Ira would tell us, no acting this time. And it was like, well, what do you think I do? It's like, we're actors. You're acting. You're telling us not to do what we do. But you get, you gradually get what he's after. And honestly, I think it's the best acting I've ever done. It's so unforced and simple. And the storytelling was beautiful, so that when it turns sad, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And from doing almost nothing, just being real and not acting.
Jesus. Come on. Be a peeping Tom on your own time. We're gonna lose that kid. That's my wife. No shit.
I walk down the street and I can be recognized for about 10 different things.
I guess it depends on the audience, maybe.
Certainly Third Rock from the Sun.
Sure.
I suppose there'll be a lot of Roger Ailes in the next couple of weeks. God help me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm worried for you, but...
And villains, Dexter, oh God, the Trinity Killer.
I think that you're so well-liked and so well-known as a likable person that it is funny that you also have this reputation for playing sometimes these detestable people.
Well, I remember Bonnie. I've mentioned Bonnie Turner a lot because she's a very good friend, but also my kind of... I don't know. She knows me extremely well. She talked about that very point. You never know where I'm going to go, and she says that's a result of my face can go anywhere. It's kind of a bland, boring face, and you just never know whether I'm going to scare you or delight you. When I did the Trinity Killer, TV Guide wrote a very complimentary review of me as the Trinity Killer, but they called me a bland blob of a man. I chose to take that as a compliment, but it sort of invokes what Bonnie was talking about. If people have seen me and laughed at me in Third Rock from the Sun and seen me and been terrified by the Trinity Killer, they honestly don't know which way I'm going to go, and that's great. It's a way of throwing people off stride and surprising them, and that's a good thing for an actor.